Exatas ou humanas? Cidade ou campo? Poder fazer escolhas significa conquistar um dos maiores desejos da humanidade, a independência. E o Sebrae acredita que empreender é uma porta para a independência, que está aberta para as pessoas de todas as idades, gêneros e que buscam mais opções para suas vidas. Para o Sebrae, tão importante quanto incentivar negócios a darem certo é apoiar pessoas que transformam sonhos em projetos de vida, que ajudam a gerar empregos, desenvolver a sua comunidade e a transmitir a cultura empreendedora no país. Um lugar onde todos têm liberdade para escolher, inclusive escolher empreender. Sebrae, a força do empreendedor brasileiro.
A moda da Malve não tem ponto final, igual a sua. Nós acreditamos que pequenas atitudes transformam o mundo. Quer mais atitude do que mudar o seu jeito de escolher? Moda inteligente, feita de um jeito mais sustentável que reflete o seu estilo. Uma peça de roupa pode viver muitas histórias, por muito tempo. Não é sobre ser descartável. É sobre você e sobre o mundo. Malve, moda sem ponto final.
Olá.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. People, dear people, this amazing audience of this real ethical fashion. We have one more event that is wonderful, one more moment of sharing this amazing forum, International Forum on Sustainability, Real Ethical Fashion, fulfilling an important role for discussion of fashion. In this point in time that we live in this planet, we are in the Environment Week. So this moment is really important. And here I have a very special guest. Before introducing him, I'd like to thank to all our partners, to thank to Sebrae, Maui Group, and also the Netherlands Embassy and our supporters. I am Bia Saldanha. I am the co-founder of HEFI. I was invited by my dear friend Yame Reis to be part of this journey. So relevant to the planet, to the world, that is the discussion of fashion under the sustainability aspect of climate change, a special look of a more balanced world, more diverse, beautiful, more Pacific. And in this moment here, very well accompanied, we see this discussion in different ways, multiple faces. And when we talk about this diversity of fashion, sustainable fashion, the origin of what we seek, what we wear, the way we dispose, here we have a player, an agent of transformation that is so relevant at this point, brings us a collaboration, a contribution that is valuable. And I had the honor to get to know Sioduhi, that is my special guest for tonight, through a group of friends. The filmmaker Sérgio Carvalho has a series, No Chai, docu-series about the life of Chais and indigenous people that trace pathways in the creative industry, seeking for their places in the creative industry, fashion, plastic arts, the movies, in so many different languages, social agents, influencers, and I get to know following this research for the next series, docu-series of Sérgio Carvalho com Chai, this amazing character, and I got charmed by Sioduhi. We have talked before in order to get ready for this so beautiful opportunity that I have of welcoming you in real ethical fashion, and I got charmed. I fell in love with your story. I believe that we do not have better way of talking about decolonization, about the leading player, about the place of speech, than listening to your beautiful story, your trajectory. So I pass the microphone to you, Sioduhi, to tell us first, who is Sioduhi? Tell us.
Todo mundo conhecer a sua história bonita.
So we get to know your beautiful story.
Né, Lorena, ai belum bisa, you Sioduhi, kamu sa terapurato, kasa terapunisan kan. You ni kan musane puno kati semana, dah semana musane ku we, ya kaverena ye pamasana ye na yu sisa. Tunika Bia Saldanha you na puno kati semana dah semana oku ya nyamo. Thầy cứ mà vậy nó thế thầy cứ mà ni mà mình pun ikan dah semana sana pun untuk kita ni kau. Toh kalau mana mai sekitar sering kan akan mai fundador, diretor criativo da Piratapuya ni kan akan. Tem moda mana alfaiate ao e isso uma costureira alfaiate na boa que mana ini kan akan mai até dar a ser mai kau terikan mana kan akan sabah suku masih mah ni nama aku nama estar. Boa noite a todos, boa noite a todos, a todas.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank a lot the opportunity of Real Eco Fashion, of being present here talking for ourselves. I'd like to thank a lot Pumuli and Tamasan for talking our language and the legacy of resistance. The bigger legacy of resistance is the language. I think a lot because in the first conversation I had with Bia said, oh, you can talk into Ken and then we can translate afterwards. And I felt such a liberty to have the liberty to talk my language and then be able to translate. I am indigenous from the people of Piratapuya. I am a co-founder of the brand Piratapuya, and I'm also a nephew of Regina, that is from the people Yaurité. I am from Rio Negro, and I bring this fashion tool as a way to decolonize here in Brazil, bringing fashion with us and bringing our culture. Thank you very much. Very good.
Sioduhi, você contando pra gente.
Sioduhi, we can start by you telling us how about this desire. I need to talk here about your educational background. I get the word back to you. Sioduhi is graduated in business. He left his land. He talked in Rio Negro, the river. First, he went to São Gabriel da Cachoeira to study, and then to Manaus to study in Manaus. Graduated in business and went to São Paulo for fashion studies. I'd like you to tell about this trajectory. With this curriculum, 25 years of age, you have this experience with MBA in project management, and this trajectory in your educational background, in the academia, where this willing come from. You mentioned already about your uncle that is a tailor, your aunt a dressmaker. Why was he a tailor and your aunt was a dressmaker? What did they do? that wake you up, this willingness to use fashion as a way of expression in the world, and the transformation, social transformation, and how have you reached this willingness of become a fashion creator?
Nếu mà se ne boa se ne puno e coba ia nico pega matar e com 15 anos na liga eu não e participa colocar técnico de administração boa da administração era MBA em gerenciamento de projetos era técnico de modelagem de vestuário para São Paulo Souza boa de Canaca São Paulo foi e basta boa e basta nie totalizador nie tu nie Dare sebenarnya buat modelagem na desenhar ni isso aí vai ser buat ye tega mai to dare semana mai dare ye akawena na concurso é atopo na Brasil né não pode dare tega no concurso ali te Alto Rio Negro 23 povos de sere da Bucuri na Ronsere te na nem se ter dare na nenhum gostaria ni não né não sabe me ter uma ter pega uma ter também primeira coleção ni não da Bucuri ani tipo também pero tu ni não é mais mas não sabe ye boé ye nem aroma depois essa ni lançamento da coleção ter não me é ni ter da ni se fizeram ni com ye kalau tu pada ni kat ni jiwa paya ni ni best sangat pada ye pun mai itu biasa kan ni kalau kan masa da te mana te moda não com te insan kursa ni setito ni não ni masa ni nyo era não sabe para pensar como estou dizendo agora eu saí muito cedo de casa
As I said, I left home early to study from my 15, since I was 15 years old. Since my 15 years old, I don't have contact with my parents unless I take a visit to them. And the motive for which I left the indigenous people was to seek education. Then I went to Manaus and got education in administration. And then I got to a point where I said, wait a moment, I have several backgrounds in administration, and I thought to myself, I need to go back to what I want, my inspiration, that is to work with fashion. How can I use this tool to decolonize? Because for a long time, people said to me that fashion is something for girls, it's a girly thing, it's for women. But when I started researching, I started talking my interest and showing to my family my interest. They said that my uncle was a tailor, and they showed me his equipment that was very rustic. And at the time, the priest would make available these tools, these tailor tools, these dressmaking tools. That was the point that I said, no, I'm not on the wrong path, because I'm going to use this creation tool to talk about the indigenous people, to talk about the 23 different people of Rio Negro, because we have such a richness in culture, in transformation of graphics, and to bring this language in the most beautiful way as possible. So this is what I want to try and bring this message from my people, because sometimes we look to the Southeast, but we forget that at the other point of the Brazil, indigenous people already still exist, even though we had some genocides in Brazil. And I believe that fashion can bring expression.
Your story, I believe it's worth mentioning. I'd like you to reinforce that, because Christian missionaries reached that region in Rio Negro, the river, and have brought indigenous people to the city and start teaching some jobs to them. So there was this process of colonization when they get these indigenous people, take to the city and teach them some things. So those indigenous could learn some abilities, some skills, and then your aunt learn how to make dresses, your uncle becomes a tailor, and this to you, I would like to hear from you, who are your inspirations here in Brazil, abroad? How can we leave this process of colonization and then we reach to a collection, a fashion collection that is really well conceived? Tell us more about your collection as well.
Depois, por uma terra, então, maneira boa, experimental, foi a tinser, se fizeram ser, pão, ser, carpintaria, mas reboa, que não tem, na sampo, africana, na tá, né, do cató, tem, se fizer, língua, conhece, que eu te cató, do cató, do cató, na tua, que não sabe, mano. Tem, que ela, por exemplo, sama, dua, que é, tua, dere maksama tere maksana nikama kupre unkuna salima dere tota sana salima ni semestre maksana nikama kupre ma ni até português o que eu uso na tota português nikama kupre da CE português então nesse processo
So in this process, just translating what I said, they teach this besides tailoring and bakery and sour, they also teach the several trades in a way to colonize us. But they gave us very important tools so that one day I could transform that in our fight. I believe that's very crazy. Like the Portuguese language that I really dominated after my 18 years old, it's my secondary language. From my 7 years old up until the 15, I didn't know Portuguese. And today I'm speaking Portuguese and I'm using Portuguese to decolonize. And how can I look to my past and retell them here for you? Because even though we went through what we went, we need to understand that the healing process is through all that, is through this fight, is through this suffering. This resistance to this change that was imposed to us of the denial of our own origin. So the question is, how will I transform with all these tools that was given to us to talk to the whole world, to the whole country, how we will transform that? So I have the tools in my hands to transform that. Even though we had all this erasing that we suffered through the genocide, we are resisting to talk to you, and this needs to be exalted.
You told me about an inspiration when you faced the fashion, international fashion. What was your dream? What did you dream to reach in your creation?
Someone that inspired me was Alexander. I believe that the genuine sentiment that I had was something very natural that I could reach. It was an external inspiration, but for me, it was to see my aunt sewing, and that was very vivid for me because me as a child, I was watching the process of people walking around, of things. I had a very creative mentality as a child. So when I saw my aunt sewing dresses, things for festivities, there was my aunt sewing and making all dresses for all girls and all clothes for all boys with all the care in the world, with one sewing machine. And with what she had, she would create. She would go through long trips to get her materials, and then he came back to Ponta of Boca do Cachorro to make her creations. She made things from everything. She made everything. So I believe that this observation that I had, that I thought, today I am very glad to have her in my life. My Aunt Regina, that is from the Italian people, she keeps creating until now. with all the difficulties that her region has, she keeps creating. From references, on the top of my references is my aunt Regina from the indigenous people in Tariana, and it is very great for me, this reference.
What is your dream for fashion today? How do you see the space of the creators, indigenous creators, this movement of the entry point and taking up space in the fashion world? How do you dream about it? What do you think about it? Is it possible?
Petiriba yu ba kaya petrama ni Piratapuya yu. So ni puni ka puno yu marca putat ni sa yu nana kana ne yu sobrinho yu kawere na na tamo ka. Tosong Gabriel pada pana mama pia I know that setina I know aku sekian ni ni. Heta petra mana tecin setana ne dia mata petra mana aku ke seperti dia mata petra mata na potrikan seperti setah petra mana no kuno timu. To pore mani terkasa ni seperti seri puno sana yo ku. Sang ku seri ku du kaya. Kana ta pana mama pia kana kana ne dah sen ku tina ne potrikan na ye kio tina ni matok. Thôi có mà Piratapuya mẹ làm cái nào phải làm gì đợi đấy na này tao muốn sari tè này na na này nhẹ na này đã đấy nhỏ ô sao cái nào phải phải cái nào kia nhẹ sao nhẹ zero money tè faculdade para se pagar se cái nào đợi đấy sao mẹ na sao se vai tamu vai na sari sao cái nào mẹ na ni na mẹ tao na cái nào phải coletivo de modas veste mas sao troca da cá về apa ni kan ana te punya gitu te tiri meta moda sa po tiri kan ana kapa ji vista punya ka mania kita ka mane shilista ne mani ne photograph mani ne maquiador mani ni apa ni kan ana teremos san teremos san ai sempre dhone serisa teme na tansa ta tensa ne me sere ta sa ne te te os ni sere ukuna sere ni sere ni apa ni kan ana pega mà giữ puno po tadi kana ne te na ne beta musi sa nhẹ Piratapuya mẹ na o nhẹ pe de da se mẹ na beta musi sa mẹ ta ho puni kana ke ne o tiro khali beta mu mẹ ta giữ de cái ya gu kyo ro giữ nhẹ pe tiro giữ beta mu ta kana to po ha sa ni ne se tai ro puni sa. Hoje em dia eu sonho muito com a Piratapuya.
Nowadays, I believe I dream of Piratapuya, my brand, helping my parents. It's a great project because I know that we have great talents. We have indigenous young people that they are born with negative creativity, but because of the colonization process, we are losing our identity. We need to shape ourselves inside this modern world, and lots of indigenous young people that are my friends, my nephews, and they don't want to speak our language because of the pressure. Because of the pressure, and fashion, it's a tool to deal with this behavior. And Piratapuya has this care to seek these young talents so we can contribute to a new era of fashion. Because we see lots of times we see the fashion industry putting indigenous people in the cover of the magazines as punctual actions, but when we look at their team, you don't have indigenous people, you don't have makeup artists that are indigenous. Slowly we are working through collectives, we are fighting to try and change this culture, because I believe it is very important to transform this reality, because the country is indigenous, it comes from indigenous people, but in terms of presence, we are very invisible still. We have a great path looking forward. Nowadays, I can't help that much, but we need someone to help us and to add in these efforts, so we can hit the young people, the young indigenous people, and that will make all the difference, because our goal is to live collectively with our identity.
That's great. Sioduhi, when you talk in your language, it is something that, although we do not understand it, we feel your speech loaded with your heart, your strength, your ancestrality. Talk more about the importance of the language. We are here at this point. This event is translated into English, from Portuguese into English. So, this way, we are making more and more people listening to your voice, your story, all these agents that were part and are part of this forum. And the language is a tool. As you mentioned, you learn how to speak Portuguese, make things possible for you. And speaking your language for you. Tell us more about it.
Estava me preparando para
So today I was getting ready. I'll just talk a bit in Portuguese right now. I was preparing for our talk. I started to cry because of that.
De que você teria giữa faculdade por giữa ou técnico em língua da ser em português para outro mas ia para de que você teria uma coisa né giữa da ser na supermercado puado ou Piratapuya o quanto para Thori semana mani thori semana sana ni kana prepara ni kana ko prema da ser que eu do mai puno ira ka tisimisa dikenal kana tane i kabela na potri kana não como se tem yang possível kana dikenal tere bot sinitari dikenal na da sar ko o kubo pa meta hana i sa pa kisimana sana bot itu kan mak ke mana tar we masa teno las men ha bot semen masane ka saya na mun tar we ni ka kan Pana ni kana kan daseng punya aku masih tina ne oh ye pot tri kana ye aku masih tina nak kana kai kita tu ni mau mani puno mani pot tri kana de tin nama ni português que eu mani o tin kata que eu mani na peta pesca sa peta mani ne um kudu titi ne tu nge siniti eu mani kana ka hopu tamhan kana ko pertama sa daseng kana ka maksa na ku e ka pertama satu masa ni. Phải biết tu nhiều. Giữ Sioduhi ni kama kana i okunguti internet पर Instagram पर nigati thana na tamu ka busaya thana dikna meta dase o potrika na ye ko sinina bokya samana na ne okunguti kyoro ni veta manina he un peono masi manina me na ni ve ni semana ni na mena yin kana dasem ku petra mi coleção da legana dasem da one ye ve witena tere vegita é incrível como que a gente né
It's incredible how we as indigenous young people we lose our language because of the pressure. Our parents and our grandparents, they were strongly taught to talk new languages. We needed to learn to speak Portuguese. So most of the original languages are vanishing because of this new era that is coming. But we didn't understand what is this new era. But now we're seeing that this new era is this process of erasing, really. It's a point that I say to people that I talk to. We indigenous, we are trying so hard to know your world, to know the non-indigenous world, to adapt and to talk. But when we look to the other side, we don't see not even one movement for you to understand us. It's very hard to say what we feel, what we understand. But even though we are working day after day to make this change, and Piratapuya is born of that. Our collections bring indigenous names And we have cards that talks about this millennial ceremony that is matrimonial of exchange of knowledge, exchange of crafts, of culinary, and it's millenary. It always existed. And how many people know that? How many people know that this is it's a national patrimony? So from that, I, Sioduhi, said, "Oh, now it's the time that I need to talk to people. I need to talk to my parents. That we need to take pride in our roots, and we need to look at that not as shame. We don't need to feel shame because we don't know Portuguese. On the contrary, we need to understand that it's not our obligation to dominate the Portuguese. We need to take effort to communicate, of course, but it doesn't mean that we are less valuable than anyone else. So I believe that Piratapuya has that message to make these connections beside the creative process and design, of course.
That's great. I will use this opportunity. You mentioned briefly your collection has the name of Bakuri. Yes, let me pronounce correctly. Dabukuri, Dabukuri. Your collection brings Dabukuri is a ceremony so important in your tradition that gathers a ceremony of diplomacy, gathering when you call other people so we can have an interaction among people, indigenous family members, to dance, to eat, make rituals. And I see that fashion is here for centuries, appropriating of aesthetic of indigenous people, African ones, Asian ones, also South Americans, North Americans, appropriating of this without by the aesthetic beauty that is undeniable. It's something that is universal, that universal beauty that goes beyond the language, goes beyond time, and it's always going to be beautiful. It conveys harmony, aesthetic, a refinement of the beauty of what is sacred. It does not depend on trends, today's or tomorrow's, but most of the times, this without the care, if we are not careful. Sometimes I'm wearing these bracelets. Anawa, I work for many, many years with women in Awana, women. I was invited by them to help them organizing their productive chain in their craft, beads, and for them, the name they gave to their brand is Dauchihu. Dauchi means embellishment for beauty and protection. It's not just something beautiful. It's something that is connected to my spirituality, my existence in the world, the way I am in the world. I feel protected. So it's more than embellishment. And when the indigenous people take up this leading role to convey, produce, offer to the world these values, I believe there is something beautiful and a unique opportunity to understand the meaning that is not just aesthetic beauty, there is a history and culture behind it. There are ideologies and beliefs associated to these images that are so, so beautiful. So if you would like to talk more about it, please, about the names of your collection. I believe we are concluding, we are wrapping up.
Yes, I'm going to talk just in Portuguese because of our time. So in the collection that you were talking about, I talk about the process of showing the world how much the collective feeling is important. So it's 23 different indigenous populations that live in this territory, but each people, each different population, they share each detail, the language, the limitations, the crafts, the territories. So everything is shared. When we look at the Rio Negro, it's not only Piratapuya, it's not only Italian, it's about the 23 different populations that live inside themselves, that live between themselves. It's not one side or the other. That's what's wonderful, because we share that a lot. We need to give what's best from us to the other. Piratapuya is that not, it's not only food, it's not the best buriti, it's not the best clothes. We need to fish, craft, everything that you have, the best things you have, you need to offer. That's the respect, that's the alliance, and that so 3 weeks of party, it's not any party. It's all focused in spirituality. It's a celebration. So everything has a reason, everything has a right time, a preparation, a planning, all the structure in that ceremony that could be planned in 2 years or 6 months at minimum. So that's what's coming in my collection. I don't want to offer anything to my public. I need to have a sense of what I'm offering for the people that admires Piratapuya. I don't feel like I'm creating to sell, to simply sell. It's really an experience exchange, and that is very important, because in fashion, I believe that we live sometimes in superficiality. Oh, now it's a new trend, it's a new collection, but we forget how much value that piece has for that this moment that we're living, how important it is to understand what the process is. So this is what is genuine. In this decolonizing process, I deconstructed this Occidental view by the simple fact of doing something that is genuine. That's the motive behind Piratapuya.
Now, I would like you to go for your final considerations, and then you talk about where can people find Piratapuya. You showed this t-shirt that you are wearing. Is it part of your collection? You have some pieces behind you that are also part of your collection. If you may, give us some tips on how can people find your pieces. You are in a transition phase between collections. You are managing already, creating your next collection. And tell us, what is your highest challenge? What do you need that you would consider? This would make the difference in my life, in my trajectory for this taking off of Piratapuya. I am sure that this brand is going to be successful with your talent and your originality.
Piratapuya came with this collection right here behind me. That is a very important work. It's a craft of Vejopuba, different t-shirts that come from indigenous craft. The terminology that is important to decolonize our vocabulary as well.
When you turn your head, your voice is not so clear. Be careful, because people would like to hear you.
Is it better now?
Então, aqui eu tenho blusas que representam o beijo fubá, que é
Here is Verde Fubá, that is synonymous to empathy. We have Veramune, that is the indigenous celebration that we are using in this decolonization in our vocabulary. We let the colonizer use our teacher to put it in the past. We have the Buchi t-shirt that I'm using right now. We have this awa that is the last pieces of the collection, is what's left. We are finishing the process of Pupuri collection. You can acquire all the clothes in piratapuya.com. Everything can be done through that. You can follow me on Instagram, that is at Piratapuya. We show a bit of the work there, how it started. We show our daily life there. Today, I manage Piratapuya from end to end, since the creative process to the production. I would be very, very happy, really, if there were investment in Piratapuya, because it is a great, it has lots of power to really incarnate, to really start and have this social impact and show possibility of originality and creativity that comes from indigenous people. And also to remind that this possibility comes because we are here with great effort. If I didn't have this notion of administration, if I didn't have all this management knowledge, Piratapuya wouldn't be here. Because all this brand come because of the savings I made. So these efforts made Piratapuya possible. And I did this because I believe in what I'm doing, and I see young indigenous people dreaming about their brand. So it's not only about Piratapuya, it's about the whole collective taking inspiration in us, new talents, new generations that are dreaming. And we are opening doors and we are showing them that it is possible to decolonize the structure.
Sioduhi, congratulations to you. It's beautiful. How proud I am in order to have you here. So joyful. Thank to Rio Ethical Fashion. My dear friends, co-founders, Lili, Carol, Lina, it's a great pride to be part from Acre, where I live, closer to de Cabeça do Cachorro, in Rio de Janeiro, ethical fashion, but real ethical fashion is global. So this union, this meeting, this collectiveness that is so beautiful, it's a great honor to me moderate this session and welcome you on behalf of REF. I thank you so much for your presence. Wish you all the luck, prosperity, abundance in Piratapuya. It's an inspiration for new, as you said, new talents, other young people, indigenous people to go through this pathway. Know that it's worth, because this cause is beautiful and the fashion really needs you all in order to be taking up their role, your gratitude as industry, as a tool for transformation, social transformation, environmental, global. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Bia, for everything.
Ai, que maravilhoso.
Podemos falar